Hello, everyone. This is Mike. What you are about to hear is part one of a two-part episode celebrating our 100th bout on Cinesmack. We all finally got together to sit down face-to-face. We enjoyed some scotch, we enjoyed each other's company, and apparently we enjoy talking about Steven Spielberg and John Williams because, well, I can't, in good conscience, make you download a 3-hour episode of a podcast. So please, without further ado, enjoy part one of Jaws versus Jurassic Park.
Cinesmack contains spoilers of the spoiling type. If you don't want your spoilers spoiled, please turn back now. Otherwise, enjoy the show!
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. Lawrence?
Ladies and gentlemen! Welcome to the main event! This is Cinesmack! And the winner is...
Hello, Cinesmacketeers, and welcome to bout number 100 of Cinesmack, the podcast about films by filmmakers. I am your host, Mike Keeler. Joining me tonight is our panel of award-winning judges. You can hear them breathing really heavily right now. First, writer, actor, and director Kyle. Hold on to your butts. Fine.
Oh, see, now I don't have a clever intro because we're all in person, so I'm kind of intro shy. You're gonna need a bigger butt.
Oh, all right.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Second, filmmaker and owner of Cheshire Moon Films. Tom, you're going to need a bigger boat. Haggis.
Oh, bigger boat. Thank you. It's usually a short joke, but that's a compliment. So, thank you. We're gonna come at you from the side like the Velociraptors while you're keeping your eye on Kyle.
Clever girl.
Third, filmmaker and owner of One Genome Short Productions. Gabriel spared no expense. Roll.
Welcome to our Smacktacular 100th episode, people.
Wow. See, Gabe
Smacktacular.
Wow.
Gabe
Put it on a
came
t-shirt.
prepared, unlike the rest of us.
Look at all these notes. I have all these notes.
Yeah.
I wrote that bit about Kyle, it took me an hour.
Fourth, filmmaker and owner of Arizona Ink Studios. Andrew, smile, you son of a bitch. Zumwalt.
Dun 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 dun. That's wait. Okay.
I think he was wanting you guys to chime in.
I can't spit the glue stuff, so that's all I got.
Wow, that's terrifying in person.
That's it. I'm going home.
Jesus.
All right, well, we've made it to 100 episodes, and we're actually recording together this time. We're not doing it over the interwebs, so God damn it, you guys are a good-looking bunch.
Oh.
You're in the wrong
You've been
room.
drinking
There's a
too much.
reason why
Yeah.
we're not videoing.
You have your
this,
Scotch
too.
goggles.
I do have my scotch.
That's
goggles.
that's a Scotch talking.
Get your hand off my knee.
So, sir, that's impossible from where I'm standing.
I don't. You got long ass arms.
Fun fact, Jaws, I finally watched all the way through. I'd only seen
You had
bits
never
and
seen it
pieces.
all the way
I'd
through?
never seen the complete
This is
story.
my first viewing of Jaws too.
Really? First ever.
First ever.
Wow.
Jurassic Park, I saw when it came out. I saw it 16 times in the theater.
Yeah.
And
That's
you-
one of those
you
facts
actually
that sounds
watched
cool
the
when you're
extra,
young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remastered special edition.
I have seen it 18 times.
No,
in the
no,
theater
Jaws.
now. Oh,
You watched the extra special
Yeah.
remastered edition.
Right. But I'm just saying I've seen Jurassic Park 18 times in the theater now, but in the first run it was 16.
Wow.
Because they kept movies in the movie theater for
much
longer
longer.
than 3 weeks.
9 months.
Well, it's kind of like, I was kind of the same with Raiders of the Lost Ark. I saw it at least a dozen times in the theater. Every time we'd go to like the mall or whatever, my mom would be like, go see Raiders Lost Ark, and my sister and I'd go, and yeah, okay, sure, yeah,
Twist my arm.
yeah.
Well,
No problem.
the very first time I saw Jurassic Park was actually at the drive-in on the south side of Des Moines, by over where Menards is now.
Yeah.
So to see a Brontosaurus,
On the
Brachiosaurus
huge-
on the
huge screen,
huge
yeah.
drive-in screen was quite life-changing.
Well, another thing that I did was back. You remember before we had these big megaplex theaters?
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
we still had like the small four theaters, 3 theaters. You know, out. Only Des Moines folks are gonna get this, but out by Merle, there was the Sierra 3,
Yeah.
and they had they had DTS sound,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
So that was where you went to go see Jurassic Park because it was in DTS. Well, I don't want to brag. I don't want to boast.
Here it
But that's where my audio recording from Jurassic Park came from. I took a tape player in and recorded
nice.
the
Oh
entire
my
movie.
gosh!
Wow.
The first piracy right here.
right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
Audio piracy.
I had the movie on cassette. I had
It's a movie on cassette.
I had it on cassette.
Like you mean VHS?
No,
No.
on,
Like-
Audio cassette.
It
Audio
was an audio
cassette.
cassette.
like
Oh,
instead of
yeah.
somebody reading it to him, he just listens.
Yeah,
to the
you
audio.
created your own audiobook
Yeah.
out of a movie.
I had the actual audiobook.
Yeah.
You hang
I
on.
had the book.
You know this. When was the break? When was the tape flip?
I'm trying to remember now.
Depends on how long the tape was, right?
Yeah.
I want to
60
say
minutes
it
on
was
the side?
right when they get to the raptor pit.
Okay.
Which,
If I remember
Like-
right.
by the way, when he was
remember right.
recording it, it was a very rapid.
I sat there the whole time with it like in the palms of my hands.
Oh my
Just
God.
like, no
God.
one bothered me. I
No,
was just
well,
recording.
back then
They
yeah.
had no idea what the hell you were doing.
Right.
Who
No,
would
even
ever
if-
record this?
Yeah, even if they knew what you're doing, like fucking let him. Who gives
Who
a shit?
cares?
Yeah, okay.
I,
What a
Look at
loser.
this sad little boy.
little. I was
cassette tape.
15 to 16.
Oh
at the
God.
time.
Well,
But it was just audio. Wow, that's
funny.
crazy.
Well, I had it planned out that if I was told to put it away, I was going to say I was recording it from my blind parent.
oh
Yeah, they
my
never heard
God.
that before. Sure.
Oh my god.
Okay, Papa. Now this part, he's spitting all over the man.
Wow.
So yeah, I
Audio
had it all
descriptions
listed.
were
That's
born.
amazing.
Do you still have it?
No, I got rid of it a long time ago.
That's a shame.
I wish I would have had it. I'd still have it, but yeah.
You might want to dig around in your tapes. It might be like in a DC Talk like album or something, and you
Might
don't
be in the
realize
Cop
it.
Rock
Yeah, with the
album.
Cop
Yeah,
Rock
yeah.
album. Yeah.
Whoa.
All right, let's. Well, we've already said what we're talking about. Let's poke the monkey.
Ladies and gentlemen, paleontologists and marine biologists, welcome to the main event. You're going to need a bigger boat as we roar into the 100th episode. Tonight, two mighty behemoths bite and claw their way toward the winner's circle. Which one of these magnificent monsters will survive? And which one will be doomed to extinction? In the first corner from 1975, written by Peter Benchley and Carl Gottlieb, directed by Steven Spielberg, starring Roy Schneider, Robert Shaw, and Richard Dreyfuss. Jaws! In the second corner, from 1993, written by Michael Crichton and David Kapp, directed by Steven Spielberg, starring Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum. Jurassic Park!
All right, so do you guys have any embarrassing stories about these movies like I do?
Embarrassing stories?
About these movies?
I post this story on Facebook every March, so most people have heard it. But So my mom gave me the book, and then we went and saw it opening weekend in June. And then I took my girlfriend to it the following March. So this is 9 months after it came out to the Dollar Theater. So, and right about the part when the Samuel L. Jackson's dead arm comes out, I was like, oh, this is going to make my move. And I went to put my arm around her, and I punched her in the side of the head.
Yes!
That's good.
Yes!
You could hear the 7 rows behind us all breaking up laughing because they saw it. So,
Oh my gosh.
That's nice.
Is it because she
good.
because she jumped when his hand came out?
no. I was making my moves that I was around her before the jump, so to kind of bring her in. So,
Right.
and my wife and I we celebrated our 25th anniversary of that momentous punch. So,
That's
So
hilarious.
your girlfriend at the time is your
Yeah.
wife.
Wow.
yeah,
That's phenomenal.
yeah.
That'd be a
no,
lesson
past
to you,
March was
kids.
25 years. So yeah.
Punch
Congrats.
your girlfriends and boyfriends. And they'll
She
marry
still
you.
hasn't. Yeah, she's still kind of a little not right.
Still concussed?
Still concussed after 25 years.
Explains a lot actually.
Wait, is that why she got married?
Yeah. Do you? That means yes.
He's my
Trust
ride.
me. Trust me.
He's my right.
So, yeah.
Uber hasn't been invented yet.
Oh, God.
All right.
I watched something online. They were talking about the VHS release of Jurassic Park, which was famously long. I want to say it was close to 16 months.
After the
Yeah, before it came out on VHS, from when it premiered in the theater to when it came out on home video.
That
it
sounds
used to
about
be
right.
like
Over
that.
a year.
Yeah.
They used to make you wait.
But it
for
was the
whatever
biggest selling. I want to say it was the biggest selling VHS tape at the time.
I had 2 copies of it. I'm
Yeah.
not really sure why, but I had 2
knows?
copies.
I skipped
Because they
school
would wear
that day.
Oh man, yeah.
I bought 2 copies.
Do you remember when that was a thing? Like appointment viewing was a thing. I was just talking about this with
Mm-hmm.
my mom. That came out that day. You left and got it and went home and watched it. There was no.
Yes.
I'll download it while I'm at work, or I can watch this anytime.
Or I can watch it on my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that, but I'm wrapping up here and I'm going home and I'm gonna drink a bunch of caffeine. I'm staying up and watching Stranger Things tonight, so that still
Oh,
happens.
that's right.
That still
Right,
happens.
that comes out.
So I know
That is
appointment
true.
viewing's a little bit changed, but
Yeah.
I still like movies come out
Absolutely.
and I'm there.
Yeah, some things you just have to binge right away because you don't want to get it spoiled. You have to watch it when it starts.
Exactly.
If I remember right, I bought Jurassic Park, that morning, Best Buy open,
Yeah.
ran in, bought it, and I walked by, and I was really into martial arts films at the time, and I looked, and I saw Sonny Chiba Street Fighter. I'm like, oh, I'll buy this. It was, what, $5, whatever.
That was expensive for a VHS.
That movie, holy crap, he, rips a guy's nuts off.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, no,
And he's holding the ball sack in his hand.
you said recommendations had to be Spielberg.
Sonny Chiba and Spielberg are the same people.
Oh, okay.
I remember.
You ever seen them in the same room at the same time?
That's right.
I remember when because this was back when you could rent it before you could actually buy it, and so I remember renting it in Indianola, and we'd bring it home, and I had 2 VCRs, and I would dub them, and I actually dubbed
Talk
Jurassic
about
Park.
piracy. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Early-
But I
early
would dub it at
piracy.
home, and that was the thing. I had it for a while, and then you'd go buy a good copy,
Right.
Yeah.
Because the dubbed copy was never as good as the bought
It would
copy.
fade dark to light.
and you'd get like.
I mean, I
static-
heard that they would fade from dark to light.
But I will say
I
the
heard.
coolest version of Jurassic Park I ever had was I had it on Laserdisc. Because I had that and Return of the Jedi
Yeah.
on Laserdisc.
Flip
And
it
yes, I
over?
had to flip it.
Well, I was going to say he asked when the break was for the cassette tape.
Probably about the same.
It'd be the same thing for a Laserdisc. Do you know when the break was? Like
Yeah.
when was it? Did you know when you had to flip it?
I knew
It's coming up.
I not on the Laserdisc I had. Because the Laserdisc player we had was a dual
Auto.
a dual reader.
yeah.
So that it would
Oh,
automatically.
fancy.
Fancy.
Yeah.
I skipped the Laserdisc era. I went straight from VHS to DVDs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never.
My
had
first
a
DVD
Laserdisc.
was Varsity Blues.
Well,
Suicide
it was
Kings.
the only way that you could get Return of the Jedi in surround sound.
It was on Laserdisc.
On Laserdisc,
Yes.
because there was no other way. So I was like, oh, yeah, this is happening.
Well, I started out with flip books.
Oh.
Yeah, and then I went to VHS, and then I
Then he
skipped
went
right
back to flip books.
and then
Well, hey,
yeah,
they hold up.
they're coming back in, kind of like vinyl.
Yeah.
Like just hipsters now that read
Right,
pop-up books.
right. Yeah,
Gabe's
Yeah,
like,
they're-
hey, you guys want to come over and watch Jaws with me? Yeah, sure. It's just Gabe holding a flip-up book.
I hold it up really high and
Okay, everyone can
He
see
could have got
now.
a bigger book.
Dun-dun,
Jeez.
dun-dun. Wait.
Oh God, Gabe does the
Dun,
best
dun,
sound
dun,
effects.
dun, dun, dun.
Put on his Richard Dreyfuss beard.
Right. I changed costumes for every
Nice,
character.
nice.
It's like a 6-hour movie.
Wow, it's like Rocky
I'll
Horror
be right
Picture
back,
Show,
I'll
only
Oh
live.
my God,
Jaws.
I would pay to watch Gabe do a one-man version of Jaws,
One
just
man
in his
Jaws.
living room.
One-man Jaws.
Have like a little one of those like Japanese changing
With
curtain things.
With one of
Go
the
back there,
three-sided
put on
sets
the-
that would rotate
Yes.
into the three sections.
Put on the lady's morning dress and come up
Yeah.
and slap himself in the
Beach
face.
office boat.
My son's dead because of you. Wear those big glasses.
I
That'd be
look
great.
forward. Yeah, I look forward to being the shark, though.
Oh God, it's gotta be the most
we
fun
got him.
for
It's
sure.
it's one of those Katy Perry like shark.
Oh
outfits,
yeah, for real.
Wait, you like the Katy Perry? Like
What?
huge tracts of land, Katy Perry?
Yeah, no, just me in the shark costume.
Oh, well.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, guys. I know. That's
All right,
disappointing.
let's move on to our first round. Tom's
Yeah,
getting his keys out. He's getting ready to leave.
I got a loose screw.
Yeah.
No, I seriously got a loose screw. It kept going like this. And I was like getting lower and lower, and so.
All right, let's move on to our first round, which is writing.
I'll take this. So, yeah, like I said, I read the book of Jurassic Park before the movie came out. I have not read the Jaws book, which apparently I think was like part of like Reader's Digest or something. Okay, it was in Reader's Digest, and then they turned it, and it's way different. Hooper does not sleep with Mrs. Brody in the movie like he does in the book.
Ooh.
Which I think, I mean, hello, that would have been sweet. Just to be like, to kind of like, complicate the situation. But I don't know. So, when I first saw it, Jurassic Park was, I spent too much time like, oh, they left out this and they left out that. And it really took me years to get to a point where just like Jurassic Park on its own. But as far as like a story, I think Jurassic Park has more interesting dialogue, but I feel like Jaws is the better story. I mean, as far as, I don't know, is it the Moby Dick of movies, but it's, it's really, really good in terms of getting you from point A to point B. Jurassic Park is a lot of fun, but the narrative I think is a lot better in Jaws. I can't do this with you guys looking at me.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah, you try it.
Yeah, it is pitting man against nature in both cases. I mean, and there are a lot of similarities. I'm just going to get into directing specifically. You see the similarities between these movies and Spielberg doing the work. But the thing I took away from Jurassic Park is still the thing I feel in the writing from the first time I saw it, is that it is the greatest experience for me of seeing a new world inside this park that is not over-explained to you, but feels completely real. You feel like you're in it. It all feels like it makes sense. And I love that kind of world building. And I know a lot of that is done on the showing side, but they don't go over the top. I think the things they do when they do the explanations, especially the DNA ride, I think is beautifully written and a great little set piece. A way to do exposition without boring people or it looking like exposition. I think it's just brilliant. But Jaws is a really tidy, simple story, man versus nature. And it's kind of two movies. It's like small town drama, and then it's Moby Dick. It's three men on a boat hunting a killer. Yeah. And they're blended so seamlessly that I didn't think about it until the second half. I was like, boy, this movie just kind of flipped right in the middle. Just like now it's just this whole other movie. But it is an excellent story. I've never read the book. I've read the Jurassic Park book, which is a really good book. I really enjoy that world. The world of Jurassic Park is so well crafted. I just love it. From that standpoint, there are some silly ideas in the writing that I think Jaws doesn't suffer from. But that's, I think, because it's this huge grand spectacle. Like I'm a hacker girl and all this other stuff that just doesn't make sense. Some of their character decisions, they go from running from a T-Rex to making noises to attract dinosaurs. And I'm like, shut the hell up. You almost just died. Like, you got real happy real fast.
Right.
There are lots of little moments like that. But I think the movie is a spectacle movie, and it's just trying to move you along. You kind of, those little logic gaps go by. But Jaws is really tightly written. I like Jaws a lot.
Yeah, this is the first time I've seen Jaws in a while, and I remember liking Jaws, but I saw it again, and I'm like, this is really a well put together movie, and when we get to some of the other aspects of the our discussion tonight and some of the trivia, it's really amazing that it turned out to be that well crafted of a movie. And concerning the writing, I hope I'm not stealing any trivia, but
I don't. Oh, hold on. I'm muted.
You're muted. Yeah, see,
I
we
don't-
can't
I
mute
don't
ourselves.
have any-
I can't. Yeah, I can't
don't have
mute
any
myself
trivia,
when
so.
When
Way to come prepared.
I said Gabe was the most
He
prepared
did
out of
set
all
up
of us.
all these microphones, though, so I'm not too mad at him.
All right.
One of the interesting things about Jaws that I heard was that a lot of the screenplay, a lot of the story was written sometimes less than 12 hours before they were going to shoot.
Wow.
So, it's based on an existing piece of material. It's based on a book. But obviously, they had to kind of translate that into the language of film and turn it into a screenplay. And so it was really kind of a like, oh, is this going to work out? Are we going to be able to do this? And they said they were concerned about, like, are we going to have pages for the actors to read today?
By the time they get to set?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, on one hand, you feel like, okay, well, they're lucky. It was pretty haphazard, and they're lucky to have brought it together like that. And I imagine by the time they got to Jurassic Park, and that it was a little bit more coordinated and a little bit more planned out, and that all that stuff was probably already written well in advance, and that kind of thing. So, I feel like with Jaws, for me, certain characters weren't really fully fleshed out. Maybe that's a bad choice of words for Jaws and flesh. But I feel like some of the characters weren't fully fleshed out. They were suitable for the story, but I really liked the character of Quint. And I really thought at first I thought, oh, he's kind of over the top a little bit.
Yeah.
But then when he started telling the story about the World War II thing where they're in the water and all that.
Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this character has suddenly become much deeper. His motivations are suddenly revealed, and it's a lot more interesting to see what's happening with these people. Whereas, like Richard Dreyfuss, it's like, well, his character, I liked him, and I thought that the scene with them together where they're comparing scars and stuff is kind of fun. But and he had kind of a history, he talked about his history, but I was like, really, why does he care what happens in this little town? Why doesn't he just go back to what he's doing, and why does he care so much about these people? And the mayor was kind of a stereotype and those kinds of things. In Jurassic, go ahead.
In all fairness, I think he's a stereotype now.
Yeah.
Back then,
maybe, I don't know.
The politician making sure that everything goes right, so his town or his
good.
whatnot looks good and he does well, and I mean,
and that brings up a good point too. I think they're thematically similar in that respect. Mm-hmm. In that it's really kind of common sense versus business.
Oh, yeah.
On both of them.
Both movies share a lot of those similar themes.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, I guess my biggest takeaway was the very first time I saw Jaws. It was before Jurassic Park. I was quite a bit younger, and I remember watching it and being like, I'm really bored. Everyone told me it was a shark movie, and I think this kind of goes to what you were saying, how it's kind of two different movies. And I'm watching it, I'm like, I want to see some like sharks and blood and guts, I guess. And you didn't really, so I never really got into it. And then, of course, it was later once I developed a little more of a palate for movies and stuff. I went back and rewatched it and realized that I would say I would agree with everybody that has said there's more depth to Jaws and the characters. Like, you actually have backstories to the characters. You actually feel something for the characters differently than like Jurassic Park. I'm not saying they're bad characters, but they are who they are. They, you've got your lawyer, you've got, your funny director who is eclectic and out there, and just everything is amazing. And you have the fun grandkids that are oddly placed just to add some conflict. And then, you've got all these characters that are pretty surface characters comparatively. So I found that was much more different. Now watching it again, because I went ahead and I watched both of them, even though I've seen both of them many times. It really takes away on the Jaws with that character development and the writing. I felt like I was actually watching a more in-depth story than just a normal entertainment kind of movie that I would compare that with. Like when you watch Jurassic Park, I'm like, it's a fun, amazing. I love this movie. It has a special place for me. But Jaws, it's a much deeper movie in the writing, I felt. At least this time especially. I think the character development is probably spot on of where I was. I mean, I would really see that character development was much deeper. But I don't know. I haven't read the books though, so I'm probably out of it. I'm not a book reader.
Have any of you read the Jaws book?
Now, is the Jaws book actually based on the movie, or is the Jaws book?
No, it was first.
Book
It
came
was first. Okay.
Written by
Right.
someone named Peter Benchley, who has a
Right.
credit for, I think, writing the screenplay.
I
both
didn't
Well,
even know
then
there
they-
authors of the
I didn't
books
know
have
there was a book.
Right.
So that's.
They kicked him off set, I thought.
Oh, really?
Did they?
Oh my!
you stole his
You
one
took
trivia.
his one trivia for the night.
You said you didn't have any.
He did. He did
Fuck,
say
yeah, so... Yeah, I think, they heard they kicked him off the
Uh,
set.
so they kicked him off set because
did.
why, Mike?
Objecting to the climax.
Yeah.
Boy, that happens a lot.
Not
In our
that
line of
bedroom.
work, we can't object to the climax.
Kyle, I was referring that comment to you. I'm sorry.
What's that?
Objecting to the climax.
Oh, no. I'm fine with all your guys' climaxes. It's not a problem. So Peter Benchley and then the lady who wrote 50 Shades of Grey have that in common. They've both been kicked off their own movie sets.
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
of the
really?
climax.
She did too.
Wow. Because
Nice.
she thought she's a good writer, and everybody's like, no, get out of here. You're a millionaire. Leave. Nobody wants you here.
That's interesting. So
She was trying to direct basically the movie.
So is that kind
Peter
of
Benchley was?
Yeah, Peter Benchley was trying to direct 50 Shades of Grey. It was really weird because he's like 85 by this point.
Yeah.
No,
so
I
even
just
around-
bring in the shark. So is that,
Bring in the shark!
So is that life imitating
Shark
art, or is
latex.
that art imitating life?
I think it's all a little bit of the same.
Because if you look at, like, for instance, Jurassic Park specifically, it's that you have the one guy who's trying to control everything that really can't control anything.
Yeah.
And who really has no play in what is really going on. He's just this fancy face guy that is gung ho, and he's here to show, and he's to be the Walt Disney of the Jurassic world, or Jurassic Park. Sorry,
Yes.
I don't want to confuse people, but of the Jurassic Park adventure
Universe.
that he is trying to do, he's the Walt Disney.
Yeah.
He really is not any part
No,
of
he
what
doesn't
is
know
going
anything.
on.
And he keeps talking about how they spared no expense, which in some places is very evident. But in the hiring and maintenance of your park staff, you have let everyone down.
Right.
You have created this problem
Yes.
by hiring Dennis Nedry, the most obviously shady human being ever, who does basically the confessing criminal act while he's standing there talking about going to the machine.
Did John
Yeah.
Hammond not watch Seinfeld at all?
Oh my God!
Right?
Right.
Although, if you've got park security, I mean, can you think of anybody better than Nick Fury to run it?
Right.
I mean,
That's true.
Maybe this is how he actually
is-
got the scratch, and that the cat thing.
Yeah,
was
it was,
just
it was not a cat, it was a velociraptor. Yeah.
how else and an arm.
And an
Yeah,
arm,
and an
yeah. That'd be great. Just shows up in the next Marvel movie missing an arm. And you go, oh my God, the
It's the
universes
same
are
universe.
shared.
All right.
He has a fake arm.
So Tom,
He
I had a
just-
quick question for you. You read Jurassic Park, the book.
Yeah.
I believe I read that when I was younger, but I don't remember it very well.
it was a flip
Yeah.
book.
Yeah, it was a flip book. It was a choose your own adventure.
Those
Gabe
were the
kept
best.
dying.
Those were the best.
That's why you hold your finger
Yeah.
in the last page.
Should I jump
Yeah,
into
in
the
case you
raptor
die.
pit or should I run away? Jump in.
Raptor pit always.
So, do you remember the book very well?
Yeah.
Was it more? I have a feeling it was more scientific.
It was.
and less
There is a
adventure kind of.
no. I mean, there's
action
still
adventure?
some there's some adventure scenes. I mean, there's a scene where like Ellie jumps off the hotel into a pool, running from the raptors, which was awesome. But they go real in depth about how the dinosaurs were able to procreate or reproduce with them all being female. That's all in there.
essentially all the sciencey stuff from the book was condensed down
into a few
Mr.
minutes.
DNA scene, right?
Yeah.
Like that's
And then
that's what they used to help like set the science for that universe.
And that always bothered me is when Grant finds the eggs. And he's oh, nature found a way. And I was like, oh, great. I can't wait to see the payoff. Because there's a huge payoff in the book where you find out, how do you not notice you have more dinosaurs? And then there's this really cool twist in the book. But so I was like, I'm waiting for the payoff, not realizing for like 15 years that, no, the eggs are the payoff to the frog DNA. And I was like, oh, all right. Maybe that'll be in the sequel.
Well, in the book also they actually went through the pterodactyl.
Oh yeah, there's a really cool scene.
The river red.
Yes, so that actually made it into Jurassic Park 3.
I kind of recall that. I'm
With the
pretty
cage.
sure. I'm sure I read it when I was younger. I don't remember it in very much detail, but I do.
Gennaro
kind of
wasn't
recall
that big of a character in the book. It was, oh goodness, I can't remember his name now. There was another park employee. He wore a Yankees hat, right?
Yeah.
I'm
think
going
so.
off memory, or was it Boston hat? It might have been a Red Sox hat.
I don't remember that part.
So anyway, that character was a little bit of a bigger character. Muldoon wasn't really in it too much at all. They kind of, in the movie, I think, split that guy into two different characters.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how they do that
correctly.
stuff and take that original material and modify it for film. And
Right.
you know, and I think they have to. I mean, some of the stuff in the book is not going to be very visual, and it's going to be hard to portray visually. And I think they have to. And so it's also interesting to me that the authors of the original material were involved with the screenwriting in both of these two.
Right.
So you know, you like to think that they're instrumental in helping make those decisions. Like, okay, well, how are we going to translate this from page to screen?
But I would argue that Steven Spielberg is really, really good at making sure that happens. Because even even now, you know, years later, when he did Ready Player One, he brought in the writer, and he was on set, and he was helping him, in a sense, direct and be like, "What was your vision here? This is how I see it. How do we make this so it works still for you?" Right. And I mean, there was a lot of that collaboration for a lot of those where Steven was not the actual writer, and so I think he's pretty good at doing that.
He's
himself.
pretty aware of those things.
I would say, and like Kyle said, I mean, taking all that sciencey stuff and making that little montage. I mean, for even your average person who didn't know a lot about science, seeing that montage, you're like, oh, yeah, I get it. And I get that they did it in the Disney fashion. Yeah. But that was the best way to do it, that it really picked out that you're like,
you don't get the exposition isn't just dumped on you by a character.
Right.
You actually have a narrative in the story that's explaining things to you. And to me, that's so much more palatable. Yeah. And it feels less like a cop-out and like we didn't know how to get this information to you.
Or narration or reading.
So now I'm going to have one character yell it at someone or say it towards the camera.
Or
even,
a lot
of movies
even
really
them just going to the lab and him
having
explaining
that
it there, because you're like, you'd be like, what?
In such a clinical setting. So they come up with this ride, which I think is just brilliant. It's a great narrative tool.
And but you know, they went in more depth at the lab. Yeah. But they played off of, if that scene wouldn't have been there and they would have just gone to the lab, you would have been like,
much more boring.
What?
Yeah.
Right, and how many times have we seen a movie where, I mean, not only that they made the choice to do the cartoon, but at the same time for them to realize we really need this information in the movie. How many times have we seen a movie and they left it out because like, it's a boring exposition, we don't really need it, and you just kind of hollows out the movie. But for them to be cognizant of what like we need some of this science stuff in here, but we need to deliver it in a way that doesn't drag the movie down.
Yeah.
And I would say that thread they built so strongly because that is the continuation of all of the other Jurassic Park. I mean, that's the basis of every single movie is that one scene, which I think is pretty spectacular. Mm-hmm. That's very far and hard between to do that.
Well, and also, I mean, if you look at Jaws, too, when he's thumbing through the books, the shark books, or he's telling the facts, that comes into play later on in the second half.
And they use the imagery from those books really well to get
like
you
the
emotionally...
shark on the boat,
get you kind of emotionally keyed up for it.
Yeah.
It's like a turning point where that second movie is going to start.
Yep.
The ride part, though, does have my favorite joke that I never caught until this last time I watched it, where the lawyer goes, are these autoeroticas.
Yeah,
When he's looking at all the people in the lab. I never caught that joke before. All the times I've seen it. So I'm just becoming more perverted in my old age.
It happens.
You got those, you have those trigger words now where your ears perk up. Like,
He say erotic?
Did he say?
I gotta pause this
autoerotic?
movie. I'll just be spitting in my hand. You're fine. Keep watching the movie. Don't look over here.
I like where this movie's going.
Yeah, turn the eggs. I like when you turn the eggs.
Where's that DNA fella? He
Oh, yeah.
he
I got
looks
some DNA for
he looks strapping.
Boy, he was long and thin. I like it.
Jesus.
All right, let's put it to a
What
vote.
has happened?
Kyle.
Oh, brother. You know, the first time seeing Jaws, probably my 10th or 12th, 15th time seeing Jurassic Park. I'm going to give it to Jaws. I think it's close because I think Jurassic Park is a really good story. But I like the writing in Jaws. I like the two like completely different movies, too. I like.
All right. Kyle? Or Tom?
So I'm going to
gonna
go
have
with
a-
Jaws here. Just real slight. No, Jurassic
We're not
Park's
even both
really
wearing a
good.
hat. How'd you mix this up?
We don't look anything alike.
I'm going to have another drink.
Let's have another drink.
I'm gonna go with Jaws.
All right, Kyle?
Yeah.
So Jurassic Park is a well-written movie. I've never seen Jaws before.
Nice save.
Yeah, it's really Jurassic Park has a super place in my soul. But I think just from character wise and the writing in general of the complexity of Jaws, I'm gonna go with Jaws for this one too.
All right.
That's hard. Ooh.
Kyle?
I was waiting. I was waiting for that. Yeah, I think before I got here, I was pretty sure I was going to go with Jurassic Park, especially because of that idea that they were writing stuff at the last second. But now that we've been talking about it and I've been thinking about it, I feel like they really pulled it together in the end. And overall, I think Jaws ended up being more, from a character development standpoint, was better.
Okay.
So.
All right. Since my other trivia about Peter Benchley was taken, I have another piece of Peter Benchley trivia. He had mentioned that if he had known about the actual behavior of sharks, he would have never written the book.
So he wrote Jaws without knowing anything about sharks?
Pretty much.
Sweet. Write what you don't know.
And how about this for a payday? Universal Pictures paid Michael Crichton $2 million for the right to his novel before it was even published.
Yeah.
Wow.
The steal.
A steal in the end, yeah.
Yeah.
Crichton was getting silly rich off book deals in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, but then died. So
Yeah.
He was pumping books out though.
He was. I wonder if you ever had ghostwriters or other things like that helping him out because his pace was pretty crazy back then.
Yeah.
Trying to think of everything that he was doing.
ER. Just
Well,
the fact
yeah,
that he was on ER.
yeah.
That's bizarre.
But every episode changed everything. Remember
Yeah.
that.
This one changes everything in a very special episode of ER.
All right, let's move on to our second round, which is acting.
So here's a question I want to start with everybody here. If you're going to get a report card, would you rather get 8 C's or would you rather get a few A's, a few D's, C minus, maybe 1 F?
Well, if the 3 A's are on the screen 80% of the time, I'd rather get the A's.
There you go. There you go.
mean-
So that's how I think of these movies, kind of, right? Jurassic Park has a lot of roles that are filled by serviceable actors who are good. Some of them stand out. And in Jaws, you have some real A-level acting performances, in my opinion. I love Richard Dreyfuss in Jaws. I don't know much about Richard Dreyfuss. I love his character, his attitude. I know that some of his motivations aren't always the strongest, but I think he delivers. Quint, too, once he gets on the boat, for sure, becomes a really great performance. Roy Scheider is good through the whole movie, but there are other characters, I think, like not Hooper. What's Roy Scheider's name?
Brody.
Brody. Mrs. Brody, I thought, was kind of not very good. The mother who lost her son, I just think wasn't very good. Like, not very good performances. So I felt like it was really uneven. You had some really good actors doing really good work, and Jurassic Park was a lot of serviceable actors. I mean, they're good actors overall, but in this movie, kind of with what they're given and the way they're all split up and things like that, I thought it wasn't as... They didn't reach the height. The one exception to that I would say would be John Hammond, who I think is really good as the eccentric billionaire who wants to open this park but is kind of blind to the ramifications of it. Thought Jeff Goldblum was actually really good at inhabiting that character.
Love Jeff Goldblum.
Incredible.
Yeah, he is. He's good.
Incredible.
Yes.
But a lot of the other people in the movie were... I think Sam Neill is better than that role was, if you know what I mean. I think he was good, but like, I don't know. I would say that's how I kind of felt at Jurassic Park, was overall a lot of averages, when Jaws had some really high-level performances and some really kind of downer things that were just like, I don't buy it.
Thank you for bringing up Jeff Goldblum, because damn, I was going to.
That scene where he's laying shirtless on his side, I don't know why. I've seen the sculpture
There you
they
go.
put up in London.
This one's
but
for him. There you go.
It's very
All I
kind of
know-
shocking. You're like, oh, God.
All I know is George Costanza stole that.
So the only pop figure I own is the Ian Malcolm shirt.
The lounging.
Yeah.
My wife loves that. It's her favorite scene.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny.
I love the
think that's
gifs
funny.
that people put out where Sam Neill's laying on his chest and it's
breathing up and down.
Triceratops. Oh my God! Just real quick, to me the two standouts were Jeff Goldblum, Robert Shaw. Holy
Yeah.
shit!
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah.
Holy.
And I'm with
crap.
Gabe.
Yeah.
He starts off, you're like, oh, God. He's
yeah,
like an over-the-top,
Yeah, I thought he was a
angry,
little too
salty. You're
much.
like, meh. But then
Yeah.
when he gets on the boat and starts drinking and talking, you're like, oh, shit. He really becomes humanized.
That's because
Yeah.
Robert Shaw
Yeah.
in real life had a drinking
God, he
problem.
Oh, was he really just drunk during the whole movie? Well,
Yeah,
okay.
so the whole Indianapolis scene, they shot the night before they shot the actual one. So the night before, he was drunk out of his mind. He went to Spielberg apologizing. He says, "You've got to give me another shot. I need to do it again." Nailed it in one take. That take is in the movie.
Wow.
It's an awesome
Yeah,
one
that's-
shot.
Yeah.
And he did it sober that time.
Yeah.
And everyone was like,
It's
he
great.
just hit it, right?
Yeah, my impression at first, when we were first introduced to that character, it's a little bit kind of melodramatic, a little bit over the
It's
top.
like the way you meet
The
Freddy
stereo-
Krueger. Like
Yeah.
he's scratching his nails down
Yeah.
the shopboard.
Stereotype.
And he's got this kind of
I'll get you for you. $10,000.
yeah, I'll get your shark.
I'll scream
that kind of thing. And he seems really over the top for a long time. And I thought, this is. But somehow that performance gets reined in and becomes more. You start to understand why he's that way, and it really becomes a great performance.
It's like he's not used to dealing with people on land. He's not used to dealing with humans in this way. But when you get him on a boat, he's in his element, and he makes a lot more sense.
Right.
And,
Well,
like,
and
his
then
whole
he's
story.
also got kind of this. You realize that he's got this kind of life mission.
Mm-hmm.
He is obsessed with murdering sharks. He's
Yeah.
going to kill every shark that
Yeah.
he possibly can, and you don't understand why. I mean, when you first see his, I don't know, his place. I don't know if that's where he lived or if it was just some dock or what that was. But you see all of those, shark teeth and all that kind of stuff, and you're like, this guy's crazy. He's just crazy, and he just seems really over the top. But then when you hear that story, which is so compelling, you just like sit there in total silence and just you're like engaged in the story, and all of a sudden that switches around and you understand his entire motivation. You understand what he's doing, and he's crazy, but you know why he's crazy.
You get all his motivation at once.
And what's weird is I have friends that are like, when they're around people in public, they're crazy and over the top, and you're like, you are the stereotype of the people, and that they're looking, performance maybe, I don't know, but they're looking for that attention. But then when you really get to know them or you sit down with them, you're like, oh, you're actually like a normal person that has like real thoughts and problems. And that's how I connected with that character. Is it's like, oh, I've got friends like this that have that real. There's something to them, but you have to get to know them, and you really have to get them into their element where they're comfortable.
Right. They have to trust you.
Yeah. I mean, you have the people that are like, oh, I don't really know if I should act on set or whatever. And then when they get into that mode and they're on set and there's cameras and stuff, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, you were an amazing actor. And you don't even know it. And it's that switch. And that's what I really felt with that character. At least that's the way it was definitely portrayed to me. And that may have just come from his natural ability. It may have just been the way that it was written, but that really came across. And I would say he was minus Richard Dreyfuss, because I love him. He is just a crazy old kook in that movie. Yeah. But besides him, I mean, I would say he's probably my number one pick out of that set.
Yeah. And then Richard Attenborough, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
He's just, you know, he's engaging on screen too.
Yeah.
You know, just his delivery and that kind of thing. You just realize that he's, you know, a classically trained actor.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
he is good. He's just flat out good. Like he could do anything. Just the way his delivery and those kind of things.
We have a T-Rex.
The accent doesn't hurt too.
Right.
Yeah.
Those accents always make it seem more professional.
The thing that I've always found interesting are the actors in Spielberg's movies. I love Spielberg. I think he's a really, really great director. I don't think that he's an actor's best friend. I think he does a really good job of visualizing his movie about what he wants, but he seems to sometimes, when I watch actors that aren't like top tier actors, when I see those actors in his movies, they always seem a little lost. Like they don't really know what this is. Is this going to be like an adventure movie or a scary movie? And they just don't really seem to be. They seem like kind of out of their element. And the cast in Jurassic Park had that, and all the sub D level actors have that. The people who do really well in Spielberg movies are really, really great actors who don't have to deal with the special effects. So like Richard Attenborough, who didn't have to deal with the dinosaurs, and Daniel Day-Lewis in Lincoln. You know, I mean, that was very easy to get his mind around what was happening. I think the actors in Ready Player One really seemed to not understand this world that Spielberg was creating because it hadn't been created yet. It's all done on a computer later on. And so it's always interesting to find those few people who get what Spielberg is doing, but it seems like 80% of the time the actors are just like overwhelmed by this huge, massive story that they're a part of, and they don't really know how they fit into it. So Christian Bale in Empire of the Sun is another one who did a really, really great job. And I don't know, obviously he's a great actor. So, but I don't know. There's just times when I'm watching his movies and I just feel like there isn't really a connection with the actor and what's happening behind them and around them. So,
well, I think that would be hard for anything that's visual effects heavy. You know, something like Jurassic Park.
Right.
Although
There's gonna
this
be a
might be trivia later.
dinosaur.
We can talk about that later. But it's maybe not as visual effects heavy as we imagine it is.
Yeah.
But
It's
anyway,
not.
It's thought of that way because I think it revolutionized the way we saw those things
Yes,
on screen.
it absolutely did.
Jurassic Park was that movie at that time that I thought this movie changes the way we're going to see movies now because of how it looks and everything that happens in it and just the spectacle of it. I was like, oh my God, this is so much different. And the spectacle's only gotten bigger and brighter and louder as we've gone on through the years. But Jurassic Park was a turning point for me where I was like, I didn't know movies could look like this.
There are two pivotal moments in time that has happened. One was Star Wars, and one was Jurassic Park.
Yep.
Jurassic Park brought us into the digital age, whereas Star Wars brought us into, you can do something with real practicality and make it look real.
Yeah.
And those two movies, I think, were turning points for all movies and took the bar from where it was and shot it into the sky.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and
I know we're getting off to acting. So.
This is kind of a premonition for later. But,
Yeah.
but Spielberg did raise a bar there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I have an interesting thing about a bar set for Spielberg for later during the directing thing, kind of. Yeah, but it is interesting because it really did set a bar.
Related?
What's that?
Is it track and field related?
No.
Then
He
I'm
was
not
never.
interested.
You're only into the track and field stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he never really did pole vault that I was.
Now,
Why did I invite you onto the show then?
You're the track and field guy.
I am.
Didn't you get that email?
Oh, let me check. I'll check it really quick.
Okay, yeah, please do.
the other characters I would say that I really enjoyed that I thought were minus, you have your Samuel L. Jacksons and I really enjoyed it. The grandkids, for kids being on set,
They were pretty good.
I'm not saying they did the best. I mean, but having kids, I've worked with kids before on set. It's not the easiest thing in the world, and to throw kids onto a set that you're going to be like, all right, so this is all the crazy shit that's going to be happening, and for them to be able to hold their own, I thought was relatively well.
But it's Spielberg with kids, right?
He's good.
Spielberg
He's
is
good.
Yeah.
with
He's
kids.
always been great with
He's,
kids. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I also
and
think
there's a lot of kids in his.
yeah,
Right.
But
It's
you
got to
were-
be difficult though, because you got to be like, "Hey, kid, don't screw this up. This costs
You're gonna be in
$30,000
the-
a minute."
We're gonna
all right?
put you. We're
So
gonna put
knock
you in
it
the
off.
ice
We're
box.
shooting on film, and yeah.
You're gonna sit on a block of ice if you don't do this right. Well, one thing I think you were saying that he picks out specific actors that are really, really good that can handle Spielberg well.
Right.
One of the things, I guess people can't see me pointing. Tom, sorry.
He's pointing
I
at me.
can
I
see
was
it.
pointing. Sorry. I guess one of the things I have noticed with Spielberg movies is he does find those actors and he sticks with them. Because you'll see like threads of his movies where it's like, oh, that guy's in it again. Tom Hanks is the easiest example. There is a thread of Steven Spielberg movies where it's Tom Hanks, Tom Hanks, Tom Hanks, Tom. And I think he finds
not?
people that
Yeah.
can deal with him.
Right. Yeah.
That do a good job to where it's like, I don't have to sit down and be like, all right, this is your motivation. This is where you need to look. He can be like, here's the story. This is who you are.
Right.
Do your thing.
Right.
And I think he works better than actually being what most people would say a typical director is, which is, I need to actually show you how to be. And I mean, at least that's where I see him working with actors. I've never been on set with him, so I don't know that.
Right.
But that's the way I perceived Steven Spielberg as. It's more of he finds the people that he knows he can basically be like, here's some pages. You know what you're doing.
Right.
I'll move the camera. I'll tell you kind of where to move. Other than that, it's all you.
The thing, what I was saying earlier about Spielberg too, I don't think it really applies to the kids that are in his movies because he works really, really well with kids.
Sure.
And if you were sitting there and you had a 6-year-old and a 45-year-old, and you're like, all right, I have to get one of these people to pretend they're being chased by a dinosaur. Guess who's going to do better at it?
Well, that is true. I guess
A 6-year-old is going to be a lot easier.
That's totally fair.
I mean, as far as hitting marks and stuff like that, obviously the adult does better than that. But Spielberg seems to do a pretty good job of working with kids. He does like working with Tom Hanks, although I don't think Tom Hanks has been in any like effect-heavy movies. I mean, so you've
I
got
can't think of one.
Catch Me If You Can and The Terminal, and
I mean, technically, Saving
Bridge of
Private
Spies.
Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan.
Ryan was effects
Yeah.
heavy.
What was the first movie that he worked with Tom Hanks on? Was it Saving Private Ryan?
it had to have been Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, probably.
I
Hey,
feel like
Siri.
it probably was, but I don't know.
Yeah, I
I've
think
got
it's
his
Saving Private
filmography up right here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
Well,
think.
but geez, like that. I mean, that's like a dream pairing, though. If you think about it, a director like Steven Spielberg,
Yeah.
and
with an actor that you can be like, hey, this is kind of the story, do your thing.
and somebody
you
who's
know
just
that-
so he's so good and so likable, just automatically likable.
Yeah. And Tom Hanks he's a great actor. He's one of those two that, if they were doing an effects-heavy movie with Spielberg, I don't think he would have any problems with it.
No.
But,
Right.
no, but there's some people that just feel like they get lost in a little bit. So,
Yeah,
a
I
lot
can
of the
definitely
people
I
in
see
Ready
exactly
Player.
what you're talking about. There are characters that just don't pop out of the screen, and there are some who really seem to get it.
And I mean, we make
Yeah.
fun of Nedry, the character of
Yeah.
Nedry, but yet I would say that out of all of the Jurassic Park funnies and the memes, Nedry is one. I mean, he didn't say the magic
Yeah.
word. That's, I mean,
He was
that
actually.
goofy
I
stuff.
liked his
Yeah.
performance.
Yeah,
he was
I
good.
thought he was good. Yeah.
The high pitched laugh at the diner, wherever that.
Yeah.
They're like mirrors later on with the dinosaurs and stuff. I thought it was hilarious, but that moment always
with
still
the little
kills me.
can that opens.
Yeah,
up.
that
was
opens
just
the
awesome.
Barbasol can. He gets so excited.
Yeah, like a little girl.
And I mean, you know exactly what kind of minus the fact that you know that he's double crossing all of this.
Right.
You know what kind of character he is because he's like, this is your bill or whatever, and he goes, don't get cheap on me now.
Yeah, he shows who he is.
And he's like,
That was
hey,
Hammond's
dinosaur.
mistake.
Yeah. He's like, I'm gonna run you over on my way down.
No wonder you guys are extinct.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know how he thought he was getting off that hill either, by the way. There's no way he's hooking that winch up and pulling that thing off that damn hill. There's no way.
Well, and then he kept this glasses. He would
Oh
like
my
wipe
God,
them, and then
yeah.
I'm just like, oh my, like seriously, no.
That's like a Benny Hill skit, like a comedy routine of him getting basically killed by a dinosaur.
Right. And, what was the song? What's the Benny Hill
Yakety
song?
sax.
Yakety sax.
No, yeah.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, if you played that over it in fast motion, it would make sense.
Jurassic Hill.
So we didn't talk about. I can never remember his name. The scientist that does all the cloning.
Henry Wu.
B.D. Wong.
Yeah.
Yes,
B.D.
is the
Wong,
actor.
you're right.
So
Yeah.
what did you think
was
of his
in-
performance actually? Because I've seen him in other stuff, most specifically Law and Order SVU, which he has had a very long career playing a psychiatrist in that, and it's a different role, hands down. And so I'm curious.
He doesn't really have much of a part
No, he
in
doesn't
this
have a
one.
huge
No.
part. He's good.
But he's in the latest.
Yeah, he is. He's in the newer ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both.
Yeah.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, the latest one.
There's like a twist
Jurassic
on
World.
his character in the
Well,
Yeah.
I looked at it from Jurassic Park. Like when I watch Jurassic Park and I see him in that role, it's kind of like, oh, you're kind of underused.
Yeah,
at
he really
all.
only has
But,
that
like,
one.
Just like
early?
every other actor in the movie, though.
But,
Yeah.
and maybe that's it. It was
How
so
early was
early
that
because
in
I
his
mean
career?
now I watch him and he's a really good actor.
Yeah.
Like in Law and Order, he holds his own hands down, and it seemed odd. And maybe it was his breakout role. I'm not really
Jeez,
sure.
Yeah, I don't know for sure how early that was in his career. But you see that a lot in the Spielberg movies, and I feel like a lot of actors just like, well, I just want to be in. A
Yeah,
Spielberg
I get
movie.
5 lines in
You
a
know,
Spielberg movie. Absolutely.
I would.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. I saw it's Saving Private Ryan was on TV the other day, which is by the way, if there's commercials, it's the worst way to watch it.
Oh, yeah.
Commercials ruin everything. But anyway, it was on TV the other day, and I turned it on. And I was like, I can't believe how many
So many people in that movie.
top
Yeah.
actors
Yeah.
are in this movie,
Yeah.
and they have relatively small parts. Nathan Fillion,
Yep.
Vin
Vin
Diesel,
Diesel's in it, yeah.
well, even Matt Damon's part isn't really
Yeah.
huge, and
Yeah.
of course,
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
It's
Yeah.
just you get a chance to be on that set with him and his other actors.
and
Everybody would just
there's
jump
so
at
many.
it.
Breaking Bad.
Jesse, the guy who plays
no,
Jesse,
no,
Bryan Cranston.
Bryan Cranston.
Oh,
is
yeah.
in
Oh, yeah,
it.
that's
He's
right.
got a small part, and,
Yeah.
and
Very
I'm
small
like,
part
oh
in
my
that.
god!
But he was
There's
in-
so many people in that movie
But when
that have little
Spielberg-
tiny parts.
When Spielberg, hi, this is Steven. Shooting a World War II movie. Would you like to be in it?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Where do I have to be in?
You
when?
should have just told me where to be.
Actually,
I'll be there.
you had me at this is Steven Spielberg.
Yes.
Because
Like, why didn't
if,
your aide- why didn't
you
your-
could have called me and said, "I need you to make 2,000 cupcakes," and I'd been
For
like,
sure.
"Dude, tomorrow? Because they're in. I'm making them right now."
But Spielberg's known for taking lesser known actors and putting them in his movies. That's
And
one
making them big.
Yeah.
You'd think he could get any actor he wants, right? As long as
Yeah.
it's a reasonable request. He could have his pick.
Well, I
No
have some trivia. on
Oh,
that.
interesting. Oh, yes, I do. I think I know
Let's
where you're
not
going.
ruin
It's
it.
really
Let's not
interesting.
ruin it.
So that comparison also goes. So this is a Steven Spielberg directing. Like
Yeah.
if Steven Spielberg asked probably anybody here in this room to be in a movie, you would all say yes. It
Yeah.
wouldn't matter with the movie. Maybe.
He's not going to give me anything to work with.
Oh wow! Wow! It'll be a small role.
If he's
You'll be
on-
fine.
If Tom is on green screen, he won't do it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've never been chased by a dinosaur. This isn't real.
But,
Yeah,
but
I
then
don't-
you look at something
Give me
like
some motivation.
Daniel Craig, who specifically asked to be in the new Star Wars. He didn't care what he played. He didn't have a speaking role. In fact, wasn't even credited.
Yeah.
Well, you couldn't
And-
even see his face.
And you didn't even know he was in it.
Yeah.
But he wanted just to be in the genre
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
badly. And I think it speaks to the type of person, or I guess the movies that Steven Spielberg does and the actual, I don't know, novelty that Steven Spielberg has built for himself. Novelty is a bad word. Wow.
No, he's got a what do you call it? Like a
His personification of who
he's-
he is.
Yes, he's got his own
for people
brand.
to say,
Yeah, for sure.
I would be in a Steven Spielberg movie, whereas that is more of they wanted to be in that genre, and I think that speaks loads for what he does as a artist to be able to pull that off. And I mean, he's been making movies since. I mean, I've seen. Well, there was a documentary long time ago on HBO about Steven Spielberg, and it talks about some of his very first shots that he ever did on an old Super 8 that his dad had, and I mean, he has been making movies before movies were movie things that people could do, and that has been his life. He wakes up thinking about movies, he goes to sleep thinking about movies, and that he has made himself into that. And I wouldn't say that anybody, at least professionally, an actor would maybe turn him down, but perhaps we have something that is See that lead in?
Yeah.
Hey!
Well, first, we got to put it to a vote.
Are we just going to vote
Oh,
for acting and directing right now?
No, just
Acting.
acting.
sorry. Did we
Oh, okay, so we're
spill?
coming back to this.
I'm sorry.
No, we're fine.
We'll do a very
I'm
short
not sure what
directing
category we're
round.
on. That's all.
I know.
We're
I
acting.
spilled.
All right.
This was all about acting. everybody.
Did you guys want anything else about the acting?
No,
No, I think that's
Okay. All right.
full.
The shark
Tom.
was freaking amazing.
The shark was
The shark.
with all due respect to Mr. Goldblum, I have to go with Jaws.
All right. Andrew.
I'm gonna go with Jurassic Park.
Gabe.
Yeah, Robert Shaw does it for me in Jaws. Well, not that way.
It's that removable
Yeah.
tooth.
Yeah, it was that tooth.
Show me your
No,
scars,
Robert Shaw.
Show me your scars.
Show me your
scars.
Show me your scars.
clothes off. Like, look at me.
These are more. I have my nipple piercings.
And tattoos.
Yeah, he was fantastic in Jaws. So
Kyle.
Yeah, it's Jaws for me.
All right.
Wow, I'm the odd man. I'm
all
a
right.
dick. I'm sorry.
yeah, you know, coming into this, I really thought I was going to be voting a lot for Jurassic Park.
Yeah, before I watched the movies.
Yeah,
Robert Shaw and Richard Dreyfuss could not stand each other on set. Now, we talked about this.
What about Bob?
had a problem
what
with
about
Bill
Bob?
Murray.
Yeah.
so I've always been told if that kind of thing happens, I mean, Richard Dreyfuss is kind of the common denominator
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
So who's the
But
problem?
the stories we heard about Bill Murray on What About Bob don't make it sound like it's Richard
Yeah.
Dreyfuss'
Yeah.
fault.
Yeah.
They could not stand each other, and the two argued all the time, which resulted in some good tension between Hooper and Quint. And I mean,
Yeah.
it really does kind of
Yeah.
shine through
Yeah.
when they're talking to each other,
And-
or more at each other.
And he's making the faces at him.
Yeah. Harrison Ford was offered and turned down the role of Dr. Alan Grant in Jurassic Park.
Oh, really?
As he
That
felt
would be
that
weird,
the
though.
part just wasn't right for him. After seeing the movie, he says that he had made the right decision.
Yeah,
really?
I would
Yeah.
agree with that though.
Yeah, Harrison Ford. No, I don't
And-
see him in Jurassic Park.
So was he even considered just because of the fact that he played an archaeologist and other Spielberg?
No, it doesn't
produced?
say. It just
I mean,
says
that would be the only reason why I could
They've
think
got to
of
be
why
good
he
friends
would-
by now.
Oh,
They
I
had
mean,
just
that-
named him Indiana Jones and like changed the whole part.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones and the Island of Dinosaurs.
Well, no, Indiana Jones and Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
It fits.
Can you,
it's a crossover.
Kyle? Can you do a mashup of Indiana Jones and Jurassic Park themes? Can you do?
No, for sure I can't. No, absolutely not.
Oh,
But do you want to watch me try anyways?
yeah, I do actually.
Da 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 na 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 na.
Yep, you're right. You can't do it.
Yep, you're right. I can't.
No, it's good.
Now,
I liked
didn't
it.
Weird
I liked
Al
it.
do a parody song of the?
He did.
Yeah, I'm a
Jurassic Park.
dinosaur. Or is that just what I
No.
sing in my head?
That's
like,
just what
Yeah,
you
that's
say.
like
what you
in
sing.
My Fellow
who
Americans,
knows?
where they have lyrics to the
Here comes the chief,
He's the chief, and he needs hailing. Yeah, so I for some reason have "I'm a dinosaur" in my head when that song plays.
Oh, you know what? That could be the motivation. Like that actually could be how that was written.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Because I feel like there's some
Yeah.
of that in there.
It's-
You know, with
He did the
John
thing.
Williams.
He
It's
did
a-
with Superman. He was
Yeah.
like, Superman done.
Done.
Honey, I'll be down for lunch.
Yeah.
I made $1 million.
It's
Yeah.
MacArthur Park that Weird Al did.
Yeah.
Okay.
He did Jurassic Park of Richard Harris's
MacArthur Park.
Man, John Williams. We'll talk about this in overall, right? But
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
talk
Damn.
about that later.
Damn,
Oh,
damn,
yeah.
damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nailing those
Talk about
main movie
fantastic.
themes.
And you know what? And maybe we'll talk about this in directing too. Like, how lucky is Steven Spielberg to have hooked up with somebody like John Williams? to, like-
It definitely adds to the movies.
and
a
there's some
lot.
interesting stuff with Jaws and the technical problems they had, and John Williams' score and all that kind of stuff.
I'm
There's some
really
interesting
curious
stuff.
how that happens, by the way, because you know,
Is
you
it
think-
just coincidental?
but you
and
think
then
of,
they just
like-
love each other?
'cause
and
he's
they just
Steven
hang out?
Spielberg and George Lucas? You think of John Williams, but Tim Burton, you think of Danny Elfman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so, I mean, it's weird how like the composers and directors
And J.J. Abrams,
Oh.
Michael
Mike
Giacchino.
Giacchino.
Yeah, and it's you wonder if they just become buds, and it's like, hey, I'm doing a movie. Oh, okay, I'll do the score.
Yeah.
You
You
know,
find
I-
someone who gets what you want.
Gets what you're looking for.
It does
yeah.
it great every time, and, just never let it go.
You've got that built-in communication.
Yeah.
You know how to tell each other what needs
You
to
have
happen.
shorthand.
Yeah.
With
Well,
each
and
other.
John Williams was double timing it because, like, with Star Wars and Close Encounters,
Oh, yeah,
within
but-
a year of each other, and still pulling off an amazing score for both.
Well, and
Right.
then he did it again with Jurassic Park and Schindler's List. So.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Which
I get
That
which
guy's a
Spielberg
master.
was actually directing Schindler's List while he was working on post for Jurassic Park.
That's busy time, man.
I read somewhere in the trivia, this is
I wish
taking
I
us
could,
into
you know-
directing, by the way, but he said it was the hardest year of his life.
I
Because
imagine.
he was working on this all-encompassing
Fantasy.
movie about the Holocaust. And he's trying to video chat with the people in California working on the
They had that
post-production. Yeah.
Oh, probably in its infancy.
That's the
yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
it was
actually-
probably on VHS.
that's a documentary I would want to put together. I
Oh,
wanted
yeah,
to do
about that year in
That's
his
in the
life.
doc-
I just want to do that 12 months of his life
my
where those
God.
two overlapped. And I
But
mean, was
he's
Jurassic
no-
Park was that an escape where he's just like, oh my god, I can't deal with these
Anything
dinosaurs.
but this heavy.
I can't deal with these dinosaurs. I've got to go do something
Because
heavier for the next
Shin-
movie.
because-
Oh,
Because
Jesus.
Schindler's List was one of his, like, that movie in the documentary. Have you seen the documentary? Are you kidding me? That documentary, he talks about how Schindler's List has been like a lifelong goal of him. Like, he has always wanted to be able to tell the story of the Holocaust from a Jewish perspective in a way that wasn't your traditional World War movie. And it's like been his lifelong
Yeah.
like goal to make Schindler's List. So I think I would almost believe that Schindler's List was his escape because it was such a
It's
passion.
past what he really
Yeah,
wants
it was
to be
his
doing.
passion of his life.
And then he has to go
And
do
he
this
would-
post on
yeah,
this
I mean, I
dinosaur
gotta do
movie.
this,
right.
but-
kind of a
But
depressing
he's known
escape,
for doing
but-
that. He's known for working on two movies
Yes.
at the same
Yeah,
time.
that's just crazy.
Right? Like,
I mean,
he's
how else
just-
can you make that many movies?
I
don't
couldn't.
know, but that's-
I couldn't do it.
I can't handle my 40-hour a week job. I can't imagine.
Yeah, I
doing
don't
that
know. Yeah.
Because was he doing Ready Player One and Post at the same time with Spielberg and Streep?
I think so.
Or with Hanks and Streep, I think, at the same
think
time.
so.
So, yeah.
All right,
Incredible.
let's
We-
move on to directing.
Yeah, I guess we've kind of transitioned already into directing.
I'm voting for Spielberg.
Go good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I
That
give
joke
it-
never,
me
that joke never
too.
gets
I
old.
give it to Steven Spielberg. Perhaps you've heard of him.
A name you might be familiar with.
I prefer his Mexican counterpart.
Spielbergo.
Spielberg.
Give me his non-union Mexican equivalent. God, there were some great seasons of The Simpsons.
So then the question on this category is Steven Spielberg better at pulling shit out of his ass when the shark isn't working and reconstructing the entire movie around technical problems? Or is
Right.
he better at starting with square one and as much money as he wants and endless resources and putting together a movie with, really no holds barred? He could
Yeah.
pretty much do whatever he wanted to on Jurassic Park.
Well,
Right.
see, and I don't look at it as a comparison of what can he do better. I look at it as he has a talent to do both.
He does. Right.
It-
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you have a really, really good director and they can direct the shit out of any actor, whether they're crappy, whether they're amazing, but yet at the same time, somebody is standing off to the side and they're trying to figure out how to rig a light, and he pulls gaff tape, a toothpick, and a bunch of paper clips out, and he hangs the light. I see Spielberg as one of those like MacGyvers of filmmaking where he adapts so well and so adjusting that even under technical difficulties, even under everything is perfect, he can still make it. And maybe I'm just spooling because I have a love for the Spielberg, and I strive as a director to be a Spielberg, which I will never ever be able to achieve. But I look at something as an iconic thing. I look up to him in a sense on how he does his films.
Right. But I guess,
So
would we be talking about Jaws if everything had gone smoothly? Or did we get a great movie because everything fell apart?
Well,
and
You got
yeah.
a great movie because everything fell apart.
In
It
part,
definitely adds
because-
to it. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
in that documentary,
yeah, you've seen it.
part of it,
Okay.
I haven't seen all of it
Oh,
yet.
it's fabulous. Watch it.
But John Williams talks about how the malfunctions of the shark actually ended up causing Jaws to be a better, more suspenseful movie.
Yeah.
Because
you
he
never
said
know if it's going to come out of the water or
yeah,
not.
yeah. Well, because they and then Steven Spielberg talks about the canisters, the barrels
Yeah.
being a godsend because he's like these things, these indicate that the shark is present and where it is without actually having to see the
Right,
shark.
yeah.
And just think, if he had free will to show the shark at any given time, it would have been a different movie.
Yeah.
It would have been more like
Free
a horror
Willy's
movie.
a different movie.
What's that?
Free Willy's about
Yeah.
a killer whale.
Right.
Free will.
Right.
But
Totally different movie.
So-
Free Willy. Yes.
So-
if he had Free Willy,
I actually
it would have been.
Is
But
the-
the name of the boat was Orca,
Yeah.
so it kind of worked.
is the question actually though, if he were to have made, let's say he would have made the movie 20 years later, where we had the technology to be able to build a CG shark,
Yes.
and that's absolutely where they would have gone, because it would have been easier and it would have been more cost effective than doing it in actual.
yeah.
They probably would have done some puppeteering for some of the close-ups and stuff, but for the most part, it would have been CG. Would they have shown the shark more? Would they have changed
Yes.
the suspense
Yes,
of
I
the
think they would
movie
have, yeah.
because you had all this
Yeah.
In that
stuff you could do?
in that world, does Jaws the first time exist?
Are they making another Jaws?
Are they
20
making
years later,
another
or the
Jaws,
first
or are you
comes
saying
out
this is
Where
the
they
first
do
time?
that.
No, this is the first. Like
Oh,
if
it's
it
right.
would have been okay. So let's say in
first
the
time.
'70s when they made Jaws,
Right.
he said, or they had the ability to do CG like they do now.
Right.
Would they? Would it be a complete? Like, would we not be talking about it because of that?
Yes.
I'll be honest with you. I don't think if things went wrong on Jaws, we wouldn't be talking about Spielberg. I don't think.
I agree.
I think
Oh,
he had come off
that's
Duel.
interesting.
He had come off Duel. Jaws would have been another like slasher movie, and then he wouldn't have just gotten that domino of movie after movie,
Right.
getting him bigger and bigger. I
Right.
don't really
That-
know if.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I agree.
I could totally see that.
I totally agree
and
with
John
that.
John Williams talked in that documentary about how the fact that they couldn't show the shark so much,
Yeah.
it allowed them to use the score
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
to create that tension and signal the presence
Right.
of that shark.
Yeah,
You know?
it's its own
How
theme,
close is
right?
you can tell how close it is and how
By how
serious,
loud it. Yeah.
But I
and,
guess,
and by how quickly the music is
Yep.
playing.
but I
and
guess
that kind of stuff.
that's another use of using the score as a character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
yeah.
not
For sure.
which
and
that
another
doesn't
reason
happen a lot
why
anymore.
No.
Spielberg is lucky to be with somebody like John
Yeah.
Williams.
Yes, because
It's another tool in the toolbox that Spielberg uses excellently,
Mm-hmm.
and that
Very
John
well.
Williams creates.
yes,
Yep.
a
I
character.
can't think of another composer, and I don't know that this is outlandish to say, but I can't think of another composer who has as many iconic scores.
Hans Zimmer.
Okay,
No.
Hans Zimmer, but
Danny
No.
Elfman.
Ennio
There's-
Morricone.
No, it's John Williams, 3 feet of shit, and then everyone else.
I'm just throwing names out.
You can
because
throw names out.
You and I,
Hans
you
Zimmer's
and I
a
are in
great
the same
composer.
boat where if John Williams walked through that door over there
Yeah.
and said,
Lalo Schifrin.
give me some, you and I both would be giving him some. Like,
Yes,
John Williams is
I'm totally down
the
with
man.
it. Yeah,
right.
no, that's
he's
fine.
just the most iconic, the crafter of the most iconic main movie scores, right? That I can think of. Jaws, Superman, Star Wars,
Indiana
Raiders of the
Jones.
Lost Ark.
Indiana Jones,
Harry-
Jurassic Park,
Harry Potter.
Harry.
How the
I mean,
hell do you write a
that's
brand new song for Harry
insane.
Potter?
Harry Potter's theme is great.
Yeah.
Really, really great.
He so could have phoned that in.
I know. And you know what the thing is? He's so talented, you're not quite sure if he is.
Yeah.
One of these movies, he might have just been fucking around and accidentally made a masterpiece.
Jaws might have been just.
Just hit, all I got to cello.
no.
Oh my God, it's
Well,
great.
it's funny because he
That's-
actually played the score for Spielberg, and Spielberg laughed, said, "Okay, John, quit joking around. What's the real score?"
Oh,
yeah.
I'm gonna make you
Really?
famous for
The
that
Jaws
score.
for Jaws.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That
Yeah,
that has to be
he's-
one of the
But
most
I-
recognizable, iconic scores.
For sure.
ever.
You
my
just
God.
hear those
Everybody,
two notes.
if you do that, if you go, da-da, everybody knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody knows.
It's one of those things too, and it's like you start humming the Jurassic Park or the Star Wars theme. It's in the culture. Like it's not many movie scores reach that level where they're like in the zeitgeist,
Right.
And not for so long as some of his scores have held up. I mean, Jaws is still now recognizable even by kids who've never seen the movie, maybe.
Yeah.
Just because of those two notes at the beginning.
yeah, you know, that'd be a fun experiment. Well, your kids are different.
Yeah, you show your kids a lot of movies.
And I
I'm
mean
sure.
that in the best possible way.
they know
because
what
they
they-
know movies.
Right.
Being around you, they'll know movies.
Yeah, just take
but-
a kid and play it and, see
and
if
then
they
go.
know it.
Don't even play it. Just go. Da, da,
And see what they do.
And see what they do.
Yeah, that's
they
interesting.
probably know what that means.
Well, it's funny because you sent that file for what's going to be at the end of the show, and I was listening to it sitting at the table while Liam was eating, and he to the score, da 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 da, he
gets
was
in your
doing
head.
this. He was
It gets in there.
he was doing this like to the beat, and I'm like, Amanda started laughing. But John
doesn't-
Williams is iconic.
Yeah.
There's no better composer in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it's
I know,
kinda
I know
hard-
you and I have discussed this
At length.
ad nauseum.
Yeah.
I would say that
But-
he is as iconic as the fact that it's in Fortnite.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah,
It's a big deal now. I played cello in middle school, and that's the first thing every kid who played cello wanted to learn how to do. Da-dum,
Oh yeah,
I can.
da-dum, da-dum, da-dum. Yeah, this is the first thing everybody wanted to learn how to
I
can
knew people
somewhat
that
play
picked
the-
up cello just because
Yeah.
of that.
I can somewhat play the beginning of the Jurassic Park theme on Liam's little keyboard that he has, his kid's keyboard.
Yep.
Imagine a little like xylophone.
It's these little simple rhythms
Ah.
that just get stuck in your head.
My xylophone, I learned Close Encounters. Because
Yeah.
the kid
There's
plays it
another
on his
one.
xylophone.
I assume John Williams was instrumental in creating that.
Oh,
Ba-dum-ching. Nice job. Nice pun.
I didn't even know I was doing
Now,
it.
Dun,
Thank
dun,
you.
dun, dun.
I'll take credit.
I want to shift. We talked about special effects before, and I think one of the things that Spielberg's really good at is after working on Jaws, it would have been really easy for him to be like, "Fuck this! I am doing CGI for everything."
Right.
But he gets to Jurassic Park, and he knew when animatronics were going to work and when CGI was going to work.
Yes.
And it is, watching that movie, recently, I am floored at how well those
yeah.
effects stand up.
It looks
I watch
great.
other CGI movies from '93, and I'm just like, what are
So
they
they're
doing?
The only other
Are we
one-
going to talk about special effects in directing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we I don't know that we normally would, but
Yeah,
we
we
can.
do.
Yeah, we can.
I mean,
Are
we've
we
already
normally got it?
tugged John
no,
Williams
that's
off,
fine. I
so-
just want to make sure because I've got
John Williams deserves all the tugs he
I
can get.
have gushing about the visual effects, so
well,
that's why.
Here's the thing.
The only other one I can think of is Terminator 2, which is around
Yes.
that era. I
Yeah.
think that was
Dun, dun,
91.
dun, dun, dun.
Terminator 2
great
still
theme.
stands up pretty well.
It
the
does.
liquid effect in
That's
Terminator
not.
2.
Yeah. Some of the. I just watched Terminator 2 for the first time while doing
Right.
this podcast. And I was shocked at how well it holds up.
Yeah.
Because
No, it
there are
still
movies
looks
from the
pretty
last
good.
5 years that look
Yeah.
way goofier than Terminator 2.
Oh, yeah.
Well, like Tom said back in '93.
Oh,
look
God.
At,
Yeah,
look
when
at the
everyone
rest of
had
the
their hand on it.
computer-generated effects, and you're
Yeah.
like, "What is
Yeah.
going on?" Like people went crazy for it, right?
Yeah.
Like they were trying to do everything, but it's like, no, there has to be practical along with the visual, right?
Yeah, and that's some of the fantastic stuff about Jurassic Park is the
Yeah.
practical stuff.
It's
But
great.
I'm surprised that Spielberg did not go back with Jaws like he did with E.T., but digitally add in shark stuff.
Well,
right?
That's pop culture awareness.
Okay,
that
but
he
that-
has that Lucas doesn't.
Right.
But-
But he also took out all the guns and replaced
but
walkie-talkies.
That was
Part
that
of-
was that's a social thing. I don't think that's not.
Yeah, and part of that
That
was
wasn't
a
tr-
studio thing. That was partly because their rights were not 100% owned by Spielberg.
But he said to do it. He's the one that okayed
Yeah,
to do
I
it.
understand that, but he also added scenes that were never there before that he couldn't. Like in E.T., there's the bath scene with E.T. where he goes underwater. That scene with the puppet, it was terrible. The puppet fell apart. It was just a mess. And Steven always wanted that because he thought it was a cute, funny scene. And the CG allowed him to be able to put that back. And I have on DVD, I have the original, and I also have a special edition, which is all the extra and the guns are removed and all that crap. But that scene, I totally see why he wanted to do it. And I totally see why he wanted it, because it is a cute scene. It doesn't add to the movie, but it was fun, and he always wanted to have it in there to be able to go back and say, we can finally do this and make it look good and use the footage we originally used. And he was
Augment
happy
it.
about that.
Right. Well,
And so there is some of that to a point. George
He's always
Lucas takes
said-
it to a different minute, and that's a different story.
he's always said that he regretted doing that with the guns.
He does,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, I've
He-
heard
he
that.
And he
totally-
said that he will never do it again.
Right.
And even in the documentary, he talks about
Just
he will
leave it
never
alone.
do another special edition
don't
like that.
don't go full,
But
like Blade Runner on it and do like 10 versions.
Multiple cuts.
Right.
Yeah,
But
just kind of at some point it's
It is what it is. Just leave it alone.
Yeah.
I don't like when
And
people go back
and
and
it
change
has
At
its
some
own-
point, your artistry
it has
has
its
to be
own
done.
cult status.
Yes,
It's not like
yes.
it's going to improve the status of that film.
Right.
It already has its place in history. Let it be.
I don't know. See, but then there's a movie like Amadeus where Milos Forman went back in and recut it, made it longer because they wouldn't let him make a 3-hour movie.
Right. He put
So
out
they
the
made it,
director's
won
cut.
the Oscar, and then years later he was able to go back in and put out the 3-hour version they wanted, and it's a way better movie the second time around with the extra stuff in it.
But isn't that a little bit different than going back and physically changing the actual overall of the film? Like adding stuff that you wanted to originally have to tell your story better is one thing. Adding a bunch of CG elements because we can, I think, is a completely different story.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But I mean,
because
where do you draw where do you draw the line? Because I mean, I've seen the original Star Wars from '77. I have it on VHS, and I mean, the special effects are okay, but like there's matte boxes around the TIE fighters.
Yeah.
And it's like it's bad.
Yeah, no, it is.
So
but
clean it
all
up.
of that
But
it's contextual, though. You know, it has to do with
Clean it up
at
compared
the time
to
when it was
change it.
made. It was
Yeah.
yeah. Maybe you could clean it up because
Sparkly new remaster. Check out all the
Ridley
matte
Scott did some of that
boxes.
with Blade Runner too, where in the original film there's a part where the hover car, I don't remember what they're called, but it raises up at one point and you can see the
lines.
You can see the cave house, you know, and he takes those out. It's like, okay, well, I get that. Okay, you can do that, you know, but like adding Jabba the Hutt back in kind of not so good CG kind of thing, and you know, is that really worth it?
Greedo's shooting first.
Yeah, changing some of the major elements in the story and adding things that should have never been there and make the story
and adding
worse.
extra creatures in the background.
Right.
You know, it's like, is that really necessary?
Well,
I mean,
when you
it's
see
cool
that
you can
too,
do it now, but
we're talking about completely different movies
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
But when you see that
right.
go into episode 1, it becomes really evident what's on George Lucas's mind when he does that. It's like, there's so much happening in every scene. Look at it. Everything is just throwing it right in your goddamn face.
Yeah.
So bringing us back to Jurassic
Oh,
Park
yes,
with
yes.
the special effects. So this is some of the stuff that I love. So one of the big cool things about Jurassic Park was he mixed practical and he mixed CG effects.
Yes.
So when they originally had talked about doing Jurassic Park and he had talked about how he was going to portray all of the dinosaurs.
Go
originally,
motion.
what?
Go motion.
It was originally, he was like, well, we're going to do everything with puppets and we're going to figure out how
it was going to be called Go Motion.
Yeah,
It was a new style of stop motion.
I mean, they built a
Go
Tyrannosaurus Rex that was like going to be this computer animatronic movement thing, and they're like, this is weird. And during that time, there was a group that got together and they built a machine specifically to render realistic skin and muscle. And they put that all together and they did just a quick little render of an actual velociraptor running.
It wasn't a Velocis.
It wasn't a
It was a
velociraptor.
Gallimimus.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a skeleton.
Yep.
One of
And-
the herd dinosaurs?
Yep, and
Yeah.
it just had very simple textures, but the muscle and the movement is the thing that they were looking for. And they showed it to him, and they're like, "This is what we can do," and he was like, "Holy crap!"
Dennis Muren suggested most of the full-size dinosaurs could be done on computer from head to toe, but had to prove it first to Steven Spielberg, which he did with a skeletal Gallimimus herd running through a field. Spielberg was so blown away by the scene, especially when a fleshy T-Rex arrived on the scene. He and Tippett looked at each other, and Tippett said, "I think we're extinct."
And this
Spielberg liked the line and gave it to Jeff Goldblum to say to Sam Neill in The Visitors.
and that whole interaction kind of happened, as we say, like over the phone. Like it was just a side, "Hey, look, we can do this. What do you think?"
Yeah.
And that to me says something about where we talk about that pop culture hit in life, where they changed movies.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think
To be
there's
able to
something
do that.
I think there's something to be said about combining practical and
There is.
Yes.
visual effects because I think of a modern example that I think of is Mad Max
Oh,
Fury
yes.
Road.
Yep.
Because a lot of that stuff is practical. A lot of
Yeah.
the car stunts and that kind of things are practical, and then they use visual effects to enhance those. Yes. And I think that's exactly what they did with Jurassic Park, and I think that's a great approach because then because so many of these things are purely visual effects. and CG, that kind of thing. And
There's still the uncanny valley problem.
Yeah, it just
it
doesn't
still
quite-
sometimes just doesn't have.
It's getting smaller and smaller.
But we
getting
went,
better,
we went, we
but
went through that. We went from practical and makeup and animatronics and all this stuff, and then they found this CG. Well, oh my God, we can do all this cool stuff.
Right.
And then we went through this era of why don't we just do everything in CG?
Yeah,
It'll be
right.
faster, cheaper. We can just do it.
And is it really?
And now you can tell, like with J.J. Abrams specifically, I think is one of the very first when he did Star Wars, he brought back and said, no, we're going to use CG for what it's used, and that's
Right.
to make it better.
Right.
And then we're going to use practical effects to actually bring it all in, so we aren't doing all this CG.
Right.
And it makes a huge difference. Like they're actually going back to traditional filming techniques that have made films great, and that is in camera mixed with visual effects to actually make it better. And that I love.
Right.
Well, I mean, talking about Jurassic Park with practical effects, and then let's talk about the shark, right? Bruce the shark. There were multiple Bruces, problems in the water, and Tom, you said it right out of the gate in this category. If there weren't problems with Bruce, Jaws would not be looked at as Jaws would be looked at like Deep Blue Sea is, right? Like a fun movie to watch, but it's a shark
Or
movie.
the Meg.
Well, and it would have been,
Or the Meg. Well, I haven't seen them, but then you just throw your hand. You throw your hands up. You're like, yeah, it was fun. And you
Yeah,
move
but
on.
it's not
Right.
the what
But
the
it's
Jaws
not-
we
it would
have
been
now.
very clunky because you would have known it was a fake shark.
Right. But
Yeah.
let's look at Jurassic Park where they make the T-Rex. There's an actual 12,000-pound dinosaur on set for the whole scene with the T-Rex, right?
Yeah.
Named Roberta, by the way. The T-Rex's name is Roberta. And it started having problems with all the rain. And I've watched so many documentaries on Jurassic Park. It's stupid.
No.
They would be sitting there eating dinner or lunch, and all of a sudden Roberta would start moving on her
Oh,
own.
Jesus.
People would scream and holler.
Terrifying.
Like, it's 12,000 pounds.
Yeah.
And in between takes, they're out there with towels drying Roberta off just to keep all the electronics and everything else dry so she works right. But they would only get like 3 to 5 minutes worth of footage using the practical Roberta.
Right. But
And
was
it's-
it worth it? It was
Totally worth it,
It was
right?
totally worth it.
But I mean, watching it, you can tell, right? You can tell when they're using the practical and when they're using the visual.
If you look closely.
It's still pretty seamless for me.
Yeah,
I was
it's-
going to
it's
say,
pretty
it holds
good.
up pretty damn good.
I've seen it so many times I can pick it out.
Well,
but I'm not
We're
saying.
also filmmakers that are looking at it from
Right.
a different eye than most people. As
but
well.
all I'm saying though is they still look really good.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
brings me around to what everyone else is saying is Jurassic Park, Jaws even. Jaws still looks really good. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a couple scenes in there where you're like,
Yeah, it still looks a little rubbery sometimes. But you know
for-
what?
for
It
For
doesn't
all of our
matter.
listeners out there, we're all doing our art with our hands. By the
We're
way,
doing Papa Shark.
I watched it with my girlfriend, and there's a scene where he's throwing
Shark.
I'm out.
he's throwing the chum out there,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden the shark
When it pops-
out.
yeah.
Oh my god, she fucking jumped out of her seat and screamed.
So-
our dogs are like flying away from
So-
us. It's like, yeah.
I
it
watched
still
the
worked.
entire movie. I went back to the start of that scene when he's throwing the chum in, and I watched the whole rest of the movie again. I love that scene when they Jaws first makes the appearance with them, and they start hunting it, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just...
so when they get on the boat, it kind of turns into a buddy film.
It's a really dark buddy film.
Yes,
but
but it is.
Yeah.
So, where was I going to go with this? Where would we be right now if young Spielberg didn't have to make these creative decisions? Right? Like he had to go the Hitchcock route, where Hitchcock's always said, "What I can show you will never beat your
Bad as
imagination."
what's in your mind.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what Spielberg did.
Alien is
And
the
it
movie I
works.
think of whenever you mention
Yeah.
that.
Right.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
barely
Yeah.
see the alien in Alien, but it is
Yeah.
an ever-present menace
And,
It's in your head.
and when they do show it, a lot of times it's super dark.
Yeah. You can't show too much, and that's really what a lot of the movies we were talking about early '90s when CG became a thing. They were like, "Look, it looks just real. We can show everything now." And you're like, "No, you can't.
No.
It doesn't look right. It's terrible. Don't show this in bright light. You're ruining the illusion."
Yes.
Two things about the movie, real quick. We're talking about the score. So my cat, I have 3 cats. One of them is very skittish. As soon as the Jaws movie starts and you just start hearing the music off in the distance, she starts to flip her shit. And she ran and hid behind the couch the whole time we were watching the movie, just watching us. We'd turn around and look at her, and she'd just kind of look at us, but she wouldn't move. She wouldn't go upstairs. She wouldn't go away from us. I don't know what it was that was in that sound, maybe underneath my hearing even, but as soon as that score started, she wanted no part of it. And just would hide behind the couch the entire movie.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's John Williams scaring not only humans,
yes,
but the animal kingdom.
Subhuman range. But the scene you're talking about where the chum, it's something I noticed in both movies. Spielberg loves the tight zoom on your face, the up in your face reaction shot, and he uses it in Jurassic Park a lot too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But man, it's so effective when he does it in Jaws. He gets right up in Brody's face and he pulls that face to react to what he's seeing. It's great.
Let's talk about some of the Spielberg looks,
Oh.
right? Let's talk about the Jaws shot, the Jaws
I was going to say
shot.
the dolly zoom.
Oh my
Did
God,
he invent this?
That's great. I love those kind of shots.
Tom would be the one that I would go to for that.
Do you know a dolly zoom? Is it
It's a
dolly
pull
zoom.
out while you zoom in.
It's the dolly zoom.
Or it's a push in as
while
you
you
zoom
zoom
out.
out.
Yep.
One or the other.
Are,
But it
are you
creates
talking
You're
about
the-
the vertigo? The
Yes.
vertigo
You're
effect?
either-
Well, obviously
you're
he
either-
didn't invent it.
You're either
Stands
trucking
after
or you're
Hitchcock.
pushing.
Hitchcock used it, yeah.
Oh, he did?
Well, yeah, it was in. He'd used
Yeah,
it in
yeah.
vertigo.
Oh,
It's
that's
called the
right,
vertigo
that's
effect
right.
from the
Yep,
vertigo.
yep, that's right, that's
Yeah.
right.
But Spielberg has a way.
Yeah, that
and
one on the beach is great.
Yeah,
And I
well,
noticed
that
this-
is one of the most iconic dolly
Yeah,
zooms that they have
that's a
out
good
there.
one.
All right. We're going to stop it right there. This has been part 1 of a 2-part episode for the 100th episode of Cinesmack. Make sure to check your feed. There will be a part 2 for you to download and listen to. Hopefully you do come back to find out the thrilling conclusion of this episode. It doesn't go the way I thought it was going to. Of course, most of the time, a lot of these episodes don't. So please, come back and listen to part 2 of Jaws versus Jurassic Park. Thanks for listening, and go catch a flick.
Maybe this film festival could help us. A film biography might let them get to know the real you. Virtuous, heroic, nubile.
You left out pleasant. But I like that film biography idea. A slick Hollywood picture to gloss over my evil rise to power like Bugsy or Working Girl. Get me Steven Spielberg.
He's unavailable.
Then get me his non-union Mexican equivalent. Listen, Senor Spielbergo, I want you to do for me what Spielberg did for Oscar Schindler.
Schindler es bueno. Senor Burns es el diablo.
Listen, Spielbergo, Schindler and I are like peas in a pod. We're both factory owners. We both made shells for the Nazis, but mine worked, damn it. Now go out there and win me that festival.
This has been a test of the Southsider Studios podcast system. This was only a test. If this were a true lack of entertainment, your head would explode. Go to iTunes and subscribe to our feed. Just search Southsider Studios.